The reality is success leaves clues. Like, you've done things already and you've figured out what doesn't work.
For sure.
You've wasted time, money, and energy figuring out what doesn't work.
Who doesn't work?
I want to pay you money and who doesn't work.
Right.
Exactly. I want to pay you money to avoid those mistakes and get the cheat code. That is the beautiful thing about coaching. Success leaves clues. Someone out there has already achieved what you want to achieve. Pay them and get the blueprint. Why try and figure it out on your own? That's just functionally stupid to do.
Yeah.
You get paid for your value, not your time. If you want to be the best, you have to work more than the rest. Because in order to succeed, you must first believe you can. Now, distance yourself from people who use you, lie to you, put you down, disrespect you also. Because confidence is not they will like me. Confidence for me and for all of us is it will be fine if they don't. Now, invest in yourself. It will pay out in the rest and also long term.
The reality is success leaves clues. Like, you've done things already and you've figured out what doesn't work.
For sure.
You've wasted time, money, and energy figuring out what doesn't work.
Who doesn't work?
I want to pay you money and who doesn't work. Exactly. I want to pay you money to avoid those mistakes and get the cheat code. You figured out how to grow your Instagram at a clip of what, 100,000 every 3 days. I want to pay you money to learn what works and to avoid all the mistakes that you had to go through. That is the beautiful thing about coaching. Success leaves clues. Someone out there has already achieved what you want to achieve. Pay them and get the blueprint. Why try and figure it out on your own? That's just functionally stupid to do.
Part of it is not trying to break them down. It's sort of trying to build that rapport, that trust, and understand that everyone's on the same team. So a lot of people go into coaching situations and sometimes they feel like there's some kind of competition. And instead of turning it into a competitive, I'm going to tell you what to do, you're going to do it. We're going to work as a team together to understand your subconscious. And it's me and your rational mind against the subconscious program that's creating the problem. And it's really, I think, that teamwork and understanding that we're on the same team, we're working together to get that change, which is going to make you as much money as possible, which is usually why people are coming to me. So I believe that all fears are learned. So we come into the world fresh and we learn our fears. So from an evolutionary perspective, so if you think about it, it was very useful for children to pick up fears easily from their parents. So you're in the jungle, there's a tiger, your mum starts screaming and freaking out, you're supposed to be scared of spiders, it's life and death. That's very useful for our subconscious. Unfortunately, in modern life, it's not as useful. So if we talk about the needle situation, there's something that's created a fear there that's made your subconscious believe this is life and death. And it's not a rational fear, but your subconscious has decided, I am going to protect Dan every way I can from this because this is something that's very important and this is life and death. So what we use with hypnotherapy is we can get into a guided meditation state. There's no magic. It's not like the stage shows, but you get very, very relaxed, and then it shows you these memories and where these issues are coming from, and then you can reframe them. So we can look at it from a more rational perspective, an adult perspective. We can bring love into memories where there might have been tragedy or there may have been abuse or whatever issues. And by reframing those memories, the trigger changes. So the trigger that was there is no longer there before.
I won't judge you, but I will call you out and demand from you the greatness inside of you. To conquer the highest level of life, one must not get used to pain. Right, so by becoming immune to it, champion stare at the thing to make him uncomfortable until uncomfortable bounds to them. Most people love their ideas of being successful in life, but just don't love their action to do the thing that it takes to make it happen. Actions are the clear line that allows spoken word to process the dream. It's not about just talking. You gotta move from talking to doing. If you don't seize the moment will find someone else who will. The way you speak, the way you act, the way you carry yourself teaches the world how to approach you. Just because you've done something or been in a certain way all of your life doesn't mean it's the real you. That's just the version that you've accepted and consistently acknowledge. Your dreams are constantly seeking the ground to build themselves upon, and that foundation is your faith. To step fully into your greatness, you have to awaken to the fact that you're all well that what you seek. If you don't seize the moment will find someone else who will.
Well, I think it's because, one, people like challenging themselves, but also I would probably say it probably isn't a fear for you. And that's the difference, because it's not necessarily walking towards the thing that really triggers you. For you, it's interesting, it's exciting. For other people, it may be a fear. And just everyone has their own triggers, and it's understanding that just because something's scary for one person doesn't mean it's scary for someone else. And that's why we can have different superpowers in different areas.
That's awesome. So you mentioned that some of your clients actually have a fear of hitting a certain number financially, 1 million, 10 million, 50 million, etc. I mean, that's a fascinating topic. Like, why do you think people are scared of money or success?
So I think it actually starts off that they're not aware they have a fear of a certain figure, but what happens is when they hit that figure, they find themselves bringing themselves back to it again, bringing themselves down when they get past that level. And I've seen really interesting things over the years come up in sessions. For some guys, they have a real issue with making more money than their dad ever made. And it just comes up like so they'll say, hey, Elliot, it's always when I hit $1 million or $5 million, whatever it is. And then we'll talk about the wealth of their parents, and it'll turn out that was the most money their dad ever had. And they've got some fear of overtaking their dad because that's going to change the social dynamics in a situation. Other people get scared of making too much money and creating too much distance from their friends and peers and family, because there is a change in relationships as you become more successful than the people around you, and sometimes people like to cap that. So I can be twice as rich as my family, but if I'm 5 times as rich, that might mean they don't love me so much. They might judge me for being rich. They might think of me differently. And these aren't consciously understood issues, so they couldn't logically explain why they have this. But when we're in those sessions and we're going deep, they'll start saying, I'm worried about my brother not talking to me anymore. My dad at the dinner table used to say that rich people were evil.
Right.
And what was rich was the neighbor who had a $5 million house. Mm-hmm. So they don't want to be that person because that's who their family was criticizing. There's also a lot of people who struggle with fear of success because if they can put a cap on it, then they're in a situation where they're just not going to fail. So they know they're going to hit this level, but if they can give it 80% and get to here, they can still say, well, if I gave it 100%, I would have got there. But they don't have to find out if they've actually got the potential. So some people hold themselves back, so they never have to find out what their potential really is. And that's something I end up talking to people a lot as well.
Why should a high-level performer, male or female, spend tens of thousands of dollars hiring a high-level coach to mentor them or walk them through some of these subconscious things?
So really it's a case of what the potential is, what's the upside potential, and how are you holding yourself back. So the way I usually describe it to clients, if I'm doing a sales call, I'm talking to someone about whether I'm the right fit for them. This is do you know what to do? Because if you don't know what to do, you should find a strategy coach, full stop. So if you don't know what the next steps are in your business, you should be finding a business coach. If you know what to do, but you're not able to do it, so you're not pulling the trigger, you're not making the sales calls, you're not investing in the company or whatever it might be, then you need a mindset coach, because more knowledge won't fix the problem, but overcoming these subconscious programs will fix the problem. And then it just comes down to how much money is that costing you. And if it's costing you millions of dollars, working with someone who has a lot of experience helping people through these issues makes sense. If it's costing you, a few $1,000s, tens of $1,000s, it's not going to be a good purchase for you. But it's usually just how much money am I costing myself every year because I can't do the thing I know I should be doing. And that's where I say you really should be looking for a mindset coach of some kind.
So you're on the high-end spectrum. Obviously, you're a high-end coach for athletes, poker players, CEOs, etc. Walk us through the main concept of fees when it comes to a high-end coach. How do you determine it? Since you especially are bombarded, and you told me how booked you are.
Yeah.
What are the main things you can talk about of general fees of what people should be considering if they're looking for a coach, or if they're looking for an entry-level coach? How do they decide those type of numbers?
So again, it really comes down to what you believe your potential is. So how much more money are you looking to make to overcome this problem? And then how likely is it that this coach has the experience to be able to help you to that solution faster than another coach. So, it's like gambling, you're placing a bet effectively. In my company, so there's myself at premium prices, and then I've got 8 coaches underneath me at different price levels. One of the things, and then an app lower than that, so that we've got like free content for people, and then sort of very good value coaching.
What's the app?
It's called Primed Mind.
And what's that cost?
So you can download it for free, or I think it's about $10 a month, $70 a year, and that's got like 300-400 hypnosis audios to work on confidence, sleep, etc.
Yep.
Preparing yourself for things.
So Primed Mind, $10 a month or $70 for the year. Sorry, it's Money Monday, so I like to give a lot of people.
So we've got Primed Mind, and then there are sort of coaches who working with them. Ballpark pricing is around $1,500 for 10 sessions, all the way up to I charge $80,000 a year or $50,000 for 6 months.
Yep.
So there's coaches in between at every level.
Got it. So when they're considering, you think they should be considering based on either their financial level or what the financial thing is. What about for people that don't know? They're like, they know that they need a coach, or they know that they need a mentor. They've finally realized it, or maybe they just realized it here listening to us talk through it. Maybe it's not for one specific thing. They just know they need to hire someone. Is it based on their financial comfortability, or?
Yeah, so I actually think you have to be careful about, and I'm different to a lot of coaches in this sense. I think you have to be careful about overstretching yourself when it comes to hiring a coach. So I will never say to someone, take out a loan. I think you shouldn't be taking out a loan. It should be something that's comfortable for you, where the money that you're investing in yourself isn't actually becoming a stressor in your life and a trigger. So if you think about, what would you normally spend on a vacation? If you comfortably spend this amount of money on a weekend away in California, then spending that on a coach should be a relatively easy decision for you to make. So it's really that sort of basis of, it should be an amount of money where you can feel it, you understand you're making an investment in yourself, but certainly when it comes to, should I be taking out a credit card, should I be taking out a loan, I think that creates a pressure that can have a negative impact on the money mindset, because you're suddenly in a place of scarcity, of desperation, of this has to work quickly for me. This is just a very logical gamble for me to take, because I can see millions of dollars of upside and the cost is X.
Right, spending tens of thousands. Yeah. So we have 4 masterminds. I have a $10,000 one, a $15,000 one, a $30,000 one, and a $100,000 one. All different levels for all different types of business people, etc. I'm obsessed with masterminds. We have over 800 members amongst these 4 groups. It's not as in-depth as a one-on-one coach. The difference of joining a mastermind is that there's a networking element to it, that it's not just about the instructors, it's about the other members that are paying $10K, $15K, $30K, $100K, etc.
And also, as you're going through the levels of progress, and I'm sure you've seen this with a lot of the people in your mastermind, typically your social circle that you grew up with, you can't have the same conversations with them that you would like to have.
Right.
And you need to find a peer group of people who you can talk about your taxes and it's not going to offend anyone. You can talk about how you're looking to grow your business and it's not going to offend anyone. You can talk about having to hire and fire your staff, and it's not going to be an awkward conversation because someone else knows that they're the member of staff they're being spoken about. So I just think creating these in-person events, getting vulnerable is really important in these events, and then just looking to help each other as much as you possibly can, because the more you give at these events, from what I've seen, the more you get back.
So investing into yourself, it changes your life forever. If you learn a language, you can now become a tutor in that language. If you learn a skill on computer programming, you can now charge a lot of money for computer programming. The same thing applies for guitar, language lessons, anything that you do. If you learn how to run podcasts, you can now teach people how to do podcasts. These skills are attainable because you can learn online or learn from a mentor. So my question is, we have people talking about making money. We talked about a bit about investing in yourself. What about on the charity side? Why do you think that charity is important for individuals or for businesses?
So I think from an individual basis, certainly a lot of the people I work with work in zero-sum games. So they're working on the stock market, or they're working in poker, or they're professional gamblers, and they often don't feel like they're giving anything back. So they're making this money, but then they're sort of questioning, hey, wait a minute, what did I do that for? And I think that giving it back really gives purpose, and it allows you to then choose to reach another level. So there's a reason for becoming even more successful once your needs are met, once you've got even the luxuries are met. You know, why would you continue pushing yourself, reaching your full potential? Well, if you can impact hundreds of thousands of people, if you can impact millions of people, you can really start to feel good about yourself, and you can encourage other people then copy you, and they'll do the same thing. I mean, with the app, one of the reasons we brought that out and we made it free for certain sections like education, for exam stress, all of those ones are always free for people to listen to, was just one of these, like, how do we give back? How do we make sure there's some content for literally anyone on the planet who has a phone, so that they can work on their mindset, and it's just they can put in the initial work without having the excuse of I don't have the money to pay for it. It's like, cool, it's free, put in 10 minutes, listen to an audio, try and boost yourself. So that's how I viewed it, is like, the more you can give, the better you feel about yourself, and then the more of a reason that you have for then pushing yourself further and testing your potential.
What?
Ask yourself truthfully, your big goals and dreams, are you really clear on they are? You know how mandatory it is to be clear and specific on what you want, right? But the next step is this: can you get laser obsessively focused, almost to exclusivity, almost, but for an extended period of time? Can you honestly say you've done that for an extended period? I'm talking about year, 2 year, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, even in a decade, towards something you want so badly. You want like action, you want to eat, you want to live, right? So are you extended laser focus on it, or you get distracted easily? Our obsession becomes our possession, but we won't possess them if we're not truly obsessed.
Should company CEOs and owners consider hiring coaches and mentors for their top executives or for their general staff?
Again, I think this is hey, do your team know what to do, but they're not able to do it? So if you haven't educated your team, and they're really just unsure, if they're just stuck, then obviously you need consultants, you need business coaches. And if your team are just there infighting, there are issues with communication, there's cultural issues. If you can fix a cultural issue in a company, or if you can help people uncover, work through these blockages, you're going to have a more efficient, more effective team, and also they're going to feel cared for. And if they feel cared for, they're much more likely to stay with you longer. And if you have a good team, losing them is extraordinarily expensive, and investing in them, it's not cheap, but it's not as expensive as losing key members of staff. And I think some owners of companies get scared about investing in their staff in case they leave.
Become too high level?
Yeah, and some people may, but the truth of it is, they were going to go anyway. They were going to go anyway, and you've got a much better team through that period. So I think that's one of the fears some CEOs have of, well, if I give too much training, they're just going to leave me. It's like, well, instead you might have an inefficient team. How much more dangerous is that?
You know, one of the things that human being underestimate dramatically is the capacity to get great at something if they're totally immersed in it, totally laser focused on something. You are way more powerful than you know you are if you're at crazy cycle access laser focus on anything. Even if there is something that you're totally unprepared for, humans have unreal capacity to get great at things even if they don't have a